future is family.
All right, here we go. Joining me now, Jim Pfaff. Welcome back to the Alec Show.
Good to see you. First time this year.
Yep, yeah, 2026, and today. It's the 1-year anniversary of Trump being inaugurated to kick off his second term, and a lot's happened in the first year of the golden age here, and I think it's been a wild success for President Donald Trump. A lot accomplished in 1 year, a lot of good stuff to look at. Give me your take on what you think is the biggest impact Trump had, biggest accomplishment. What's your take?
Well, it's clearly the effects that are going to come about on the economic policy, primarily the One Big Beautiful Bill and some of the key things that came through that. But, also just the way that we are going to be on we're going to be able to reduce our inflation trend, not just because of what the One Big Beautiful Bill is going to do for economic growth. That has a modest effect, and it really is just price inflation, this or that price. But the fact that a combination of oil prices are going down because Donald Trump has reopened our ability to, remember the Biden administration was trying to say, oh, we've got more drilling going on than anywhere. And there were some numbers that were pretty high then. Of course, they don't understand the fact that these things are long-term projects and Donald Trump had ramped it up. But the second thing is we're at an even higher place in oil production in the United States right now. And then with what just happened in Venezuela, it's going to make them ultimately, not immediately, but ultimately going to make the markets that much more wide open. So businesses in general that rely on anything to do with the oil, mostly transportation, are going to benefit. But then you've got government spending on a trend down. Now, we're way far away than where I want to be. We've got massive deficits that have got to go away, but they're hundreds of billions of dollars less, and the trend's going down because we've also gotten rid of hundreds of thousands of federal employees thanks to the efforts of Donald Trump and Office of Management and Budget under Russ Vought. These economic numbers are going to be a significant thing that takes place this year, and I think it is the biggest story, but very close. Second story is the immigration story. The reason I say it's a close second and even second at all, because its effects are massive, is that you've got 2 million self-deported people, and that number keeps growing. You've got literally hundreds of thousands of criminal illegals that are out of the country, and which has had a positive effect on the job market. We know that because the information of U.S. citizens employed compared to those who are non-citizens or non-citizen green card holders has changed dramatically. So we're in a great place. It's a combination immigration change and economic change that's, I think, people are going to be talking about for a long period of time.
And those are the two things, Jim, that he ran on during his campaign. Those were the two major reasons why people were voting for Trump. They wanted to see the border closed. They wanted to see these deportations because they flooded. Everyone saw the country getting flooded with these illegals. But also, too, the economy was the other reason why the main reason why I voted for Trump, because it has a direct impact on my life, my family's life. Now, the economy is not where it needs to be. But like you point out there, the effects of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the effects that he's done for the economy as far as the Liberation Day, the tariffs and all that stuff, I think comes into play a lot more of an impact this year, second year going in. But it's already stopped the bleeding, and that was the major point here. The inflation kept going up higher. Prices kept going higher. Now we have cheaper gas. We have some cheaper groceries. We know eggs plummeted, along with a number of other items. And it's just, for the average working day American, that was really why they got off their ass and got to the polls, because they were tired of all this crazy inflation, crazy overpricing. And I think that was the main reason why he was elected. Now, I know you can't really tell what his approval rating is, because I don't believe any of these polls have come out at all. But I know that they put one out there saying like 92% of the people that voted for Trump are happy with where he's at and what he's done. And I do believe that. I do believe that the main people that came out to vote for Trump like what they see. How could they not? I mean, what would be the big mark that you'd say where your life hasn't improved as an average everyday worker? I mean, maybe if you're a welfare recipient, maybe you're a little worried, saying, "Oh, wait a minute, they might cut my crust off here." But average American worker got to be happy with what they saw.
Well, they're more than happy. And by the way, you don't hear Democrats talking about Biden as it relates to Trump inflation, because those numbers are clearly going where we already knew that they were going. There are two factors here. They were showing charts of the inflation rate change over the Biden administration, that there was a slight tick up at the beginning of the Trump administration in the inflation rate. But what they never showed you was the chart of cumulative inflation, which for Joe Biden was going way up, and then Trump leveled it off, and now it's starting to go a little bit down. This is that's the one that people really feel, right, on a day-to-day basis. When they're restrained in their spending, it's not because of what the current inflation rate is. It's because the cumulative inflation that burdens them every single day. That's relieving itself. We're getting reductions in that. We're starting to see now that companies are doing just fine with the tariff situation, and Shazam, we're exporting more now than we have in a long period of time, and Chinese imports are down, and that's something that having this reset of the international trading system is actually positively helping Americans. And again, there's more to roll out, and there's a lot more to do, but there's no doubt, when it comes to kitchen table issues, Americans generally are feeling much better than they were. They're not convinced it's all better yet entirely. They're just on a better track. And frankly, I think that's going to play out positively through the year.
No question, we're on a road to recovery here, because we were in a disaster. And if the Camelo would have got in there, it would have been lights out for us hardworking, regular working guys. And especially, too, with the go green nonsense. It's like just getting rid of all of that. I'm still here. Like I say, in the communist state of Jersey, we got another Democrat governor now. And it's like they're all about going green. Meanwhile, our utility bills go through the ceiling because that's what they focus on. And it's like, get rid of all of this nonsense. But it's, for some reason, it seems like they stick to these things that nobody I know wants. Nobody wants this go green stuff and your utility bills to go flying high to save the environment, climate change, and all that stuff. No one cares about it. No one wants it. We want cheaper utility bills. No one wants the border to be wide open. But the Democrats seem to want to push that, and they continue to push it, even though it's widely unpopular. Same thing with men and women's sports. Nobody I know agrees with this thing, yet they keep pushing it. So as we say, like, it seems like the Democrats are set up to win the midterms. I mean, everywhere you look, the betting markets have them high. I mean, it's like 78% chance, 80% chance to take the House back. I don't see what the appeal is to having Democrats back in power to the average working person.
Well, on that point, before I expand it here on the green energy thing, on that point, the reason for that, when it exists, is because of Republicans in Congress. Now, you got to remember, not every Trump voter is coming out to vote in November. Now, I wish they would, and I think they should. I would urge them to do so. But in these elections, in these midterm elections, where you don't have presidential outcomes, you don't have a presidential electorate, it's reduced, then it can become a little more tricky in situations like this. If Republicans don't do something dramatic and dramatically good in the next reconciliation package they're talking about doing, then you're just not going to motivate voters well enough. I still think there's a chance for Republicans to pull it out. I still think everything works in Republicans' favor. I mean, this just goes back to what you've heard me say many times, that Republicans are really good at grabbing defeat out of the jaws of victory. But that's really the dynamic that takes place. Donald Trump can only do so much, and any president can only do so much in midterm elections. It's really up to congressional leaders to get their act together. Republicans run crappy campaigns. They work harder to pay the consultants than to win the elections, because all that stuff is going to work in their favor no matter whether they're in power or not. So they take away all their incentives. But back to the green energy thing. Listen, consider this. And I remember in the gubernatorial election just this last November in New Jersey, there were plenty of studies that showed that your electricity prices in that state were directly related to government policy. Yeah. Like it's not even a question. So if you fast forward to today, we just had the German chancellor, which is equivalent to a prime minister in a parliamentary system. The German chancellor just said that they have deep regret for having gotten rid of all of their nuclear power. Then we found out, which it's harming their electricity costs, but we found out that the chancellor who oversaw the getting rid of all their nuclear plants, I didn't know this at the time, but he immediately took a job with a Russian oil company as he also pushed for the Nord Stream pipeline coming from Russia. Like the absurdity of what we have gone through over the last 3-4 decades with this green energy push, mostly started and pushed by Al Gore. It's been a scam from the beginning. Rush Limbaugh, who we all miss these days, used to talk about it all the time. It was an undermining factor to try to change government outputs. Just like, by the way, now that the green energy thing isn't as big a deal, it's still big, but it's not as big a deal as it was. What's the thing to undermine governments now? DEI. So we can go to censorship, the whole censorship industrial complex because of disinformation and misinformation, all this kind of stuff. There's always a push on the left to try to overthrow the American ideal. And freedom is an American ideal right now. It has origins in Europe centuries ago, but it is an American ideal. And we've got Democrats in this country who are intent upon overthrowing the American government, by which I mean the Constitution and our way of governing. If they can, that's why they go to chaos. It's why they push censorship and why censorship is propagating in Europe right now. The green energy thing was all about that primarily. Sadly, because Mikey Sherrill won, you're going to be dealing with that continuing in New Jersey. But I think we're on a trend away from that and hopefully permanently in the future. When you see Germany admitting it, you know that there's something going on.
Yeah, I think nationally we're going to be moving away from that as far as what Trump can do. But as states, when you have them run by these lunatics, it's going to be hard to weed it out. And you even seen Kamala Harris, who they were pointing out her hypocrisy, how she was saying, warning everybody about climate change. The rising sea levels are going to be a disaster. And she just bought an $8 million home on the beachfront. Yeah. So it's like, who are these people kidding? We all know that they're full of it. And
it was never serious for them to begin with. It was literally about government power. Because if Democrats' ideas don't win at the polls. That's why we've got problems in our elections right now. It's why Virginia, under Abigail Spanberger, is pushing a bill that says, no, you can't test the paper ballots. We just go by the scans on the computers. Well, there's no other reason to do that but to steal elections. I mean, that's literally what they want to do. And voter ID as well. The pushback against voter ID is which they claim is a push to try to enfranchise potential voters. That's bull. They want to always, some people would be slightly more enfranchised in that scenario because it would help them be a little bit easier. But the real, to get to the poll in a couple ways, but the real issue is to bring in people who ought to not be voting to begin with. That's their goal. That's why we have unsolicited mail ballots. That's why they don't want voter ID. They want the opportunity to flood in that fraud so they can have permanent power. Democrats are about permanent authoritarian power. It's happening in California. They're going to try it again in New Jersey. I think it's going on a stronger path under Abigail Spanberger in Virginia right now. That's what they're about. They are not about your ideas, what you feel and think, your personal aspirations, just their aspirations for power. That's all they care about. And they're going to do everything they can to shove it down your throat to make sure you're too intimidated to push back against them. That's how Democrats operate. They're not an American party.
Yeah, they hate America, it seems, and it's obvious by their actions because it speaks louder than their words. But we've seen now, we don't have the SAVE Act passed. They haven't done any of the election security passed. And the thing that's hurt Trump the most is the GOP. They've gotten in the way. They haven't been there to compliment Trump. They've only hurt. And right now, it just seems like we just seen the Republicans voted in to give more money to something we already defunded. And it just seems like what side
even worse, the censorship industrial complex. They gave money to the National Endowment for Democracy, which is the leader on canceling canceling corporations around the world that won't comply, that won't inject DEI and other standards, and that won't shut. And they also went after all the platforms where people speak. That it's such an absurd thing. You remember, Alec, last year I said various times that the weak part of the Trump agenda is Republicans in Congress. And it still holds true today. They'd better get their act together here in the next couple of months, or they're going to let all of us down. I mean, look at what's happening in Virginia right now. They are shutting down election veracity. They're going back into the Green New Deal thing themselves. They just got rid of the executive order that Glenn Youngkin had signed on that. The things that are coming out of Virginia right now is what they intend to do. That is where they will go. And you have to fight hard to stop that. Republicans, though, are weak-kneed. You have Virginia also is going to go from, I think they have 6 Democrat congressional seats and 4 Republican seats. They're going to go to 10-1. They're doing that redistricting map right now. Whereas you've got Indiana Republicans were totally unwilling to redraw their map. Well, Democrats are willing to take it all, but you weak-kneed Republicans won't do things. I think we need to be aggressive. As Republicans have to be aggressive, and they need to enshrine the Trump agenda into law. They've got to do it so that we can stop the bleeding.
It's just the same old story, the same playbook, it's the same nonsense with the Republicans. And you would think some of what Trump has been able to do would rub off on these guys. Like, Trump plays to win. He wants to shove it down your throat. He doesn't care if he hurts your feelings, doesn't care if you feel bad about it. He does it. The Republicans play this like, well, if they get back in power, we're going to play nice. And the Democrats don't play that game at all. They come to jam it down your throat. And that's why Trump and the Democrats go at it while the Republicans are sitting there playing both sides of the fence. And it's sickening to watch, because if we just had a little bit of cooperation, we could set the whole economy right now on fire. We could have voter integrity. We could have IDs to vote. We could have paper ballots, one-day voting. We could have all that stuff done, codified, and set to go. But the Republicans just refuse to play. And it's not that it just seems like they want to go against Trump. They don't want the security elections. They don't want to codify any of his executive orders. There's no other reason why they won't get on board.
Well, the Republican Study Committee effort and their suggestion for the reconciliation package does implement a lot of Trump's executive orders into that. So let's hope that moves forward. In my mind, it doesn't go far enough. I think we need to go for broke. And on the Senate side, John Thune needs to tell the parliamentarian, because reconciliation, you got to follow the rules. And Republicans over in the Senate need to tell the parliamentarian, you don't make the rules. The members make the rules. Your job is to interpret the rules we made. But we ultimately make the rules, and we're going to do it our way. And that's what they need to do as well. They do need to get a set of balls. And frankly, in key positions on Capitol Hill, there are Republicans who have none of that. And it is a detriment to the future of America. That said, there's a lot of hope, because we are getting a lot of good things done through the Trump administration that will have a long-term effect. So, let's just hope we can pick it up once he's out of office.
Well, thankfully we have another 3 years of him there. Hopefully this year we get a lot more done. Just in case we do bomb in those midterms, we get a lot of stuff packed in before that happens. But one of the things you talk about the Democrats, the way that they brought in these illegals to help boost their redistricting, to help them with these fake votes and all this other stuff. They turn their entire mindset towards illegal immigration, because you listen back to Barack Obama, to Bill Clinton, to even Joe Biden, talk about how much they're against illegal immigration. And Obama did everything he could at the time. He deported these people with returns or reversals, whatever it was, but he wasn't giving people due process. 75% of the people he deported got no due process. He spoke hard against illegal immigration. So did Bill Clinton. And now all of a sudden they're against it, because now they need these people to help them stay in power. Once they realize that, they turn their whole base around, and now you see people actually going out there rioting and protesting to protect illegal immigrants, criminals at that, to stay in our country. And it's amazing how they've been able to bend the mind of these people who used to vote for them to get illegal immigrants out of the country, to now stand there and be willing to die to keep illegal criminals in the country.
Well, recognize this battle is far from over. They are going to continue to inject chaos into the American system. I mean, just look at what they did in the church in Minneapolis. Like that actually is illegal what happened there. That is, and thankfully Harmeet Dillon and the DOJ is apparently going to be investigating this, and hopefully they'll really take action on it. But the reality is, you can't, they will intimidate you to the bone. They will make you, like, it's very Soviet and very Maoist communist, what they're doing. They are doing this, and this battle is going to continue because their only hope for the future is in illegal immigration. Their only electoral hope is that. If Donald Trump is successful, for example, at cleaning up how we do the census, just that one thing, if he is successful in cleaning up voter rolls, which is getting some momentum right now and having some very positive effect in key places, you're going to find out that from an electoral perspective, at least, we could get back to normal. And it would require Democrats to have to shift. See, right now, Democrats don't have any incentive to shift the way they do things and to moderate what they believe and do. A la Bill Maher. Like, it's amazing that conservatives love Bill Maher right now. And I think that at least in terms of pushing against wokeism and radicalism, there's good reason to do that because he's very smart about it. But, I think we need to get back to the place where you hate Bill Maher again, because then we would be in the normal, right? And that is that moderating effect that he calls for, that Elon Musk calls for, and all these people rightly call for, doesn't happen because our elections are not where they need to be. And the immigration issue, illegal immigration issue, is a big part of that. It's the whole game for Democrats. The radical Democrats that are in charge of everything in that party, that un-American party right now, they have no accountability because they've jimmy-rigged the system well enough to allow their stupid ideas to keep them in elective office. When we can change that, then the SAVE Act is a big part of it. Then it's going to help us tremendously.
I was saying before I brought you on, like, how really it shows how brilliant I think that the Democrats and their use of the media and everything else works, because right now all we're talking about in Minnesota is these ICE riots, Renee Good, we're talking about the protests, the church invasion. No one's talking about the fraud anymore. They've completely shifted the entire narrative, and no one's even focusing on it. It's almost like that story died on the vine now. And it's like it's billions of dollars in fraud over a decade, and that they've been getting away with it for so long. And it's like no major politician has paid the price for it. Tim Walz is now not going to run for re-election. He should have to step down and resign, but there's no politicians paying the price. And it almost seems like you don't even see any stories about it anymore anywhere in the media since the riots and all the protests started there.
Well, you barely saw it before all that, by the way.
Right.
But that is the purpose of the riots and protests, is to make people not see what's really going on. It's kind of like that. What is it? Oh gosh, I forget his name. But the dispersed, nothing to see here with the fire.
Yeah, Leslie
right?
Nielsen. Yeah, Naked Gun. Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen, and that's what they're trying to do. That's their whole modus operandi. This is the Saul Alinsky playbook. To beat up against Saul Alinsky came out of fashion during the Obama administration, because he tried to make it, that's no big deal. And that book wasn't really dedicated to Lucifer. What are you talking about? No, it was. I mean, it's really a Luciferian way of doing politics. And again, this is one of the reasons why I say it's not an American party. What Saul Alinsky stood for was not American. It was something in fact, he was pushing against the American system because it didn't provide outcomes that he thought were important. But the fundamental aspect of our liberty and what we were as a country, however imperfect you want to find us to be, and there are imperfections, the goodness of America and the propagation of freedom and economic prosperity literally around the world that came from our ideals was there because the Alinskyite type ideals, the Obama-esque era that we are, and by the way, you said it's over the last 10 years and all this money. No, it's almost 20 years. It's all the way since the Obama administration is when this really started to kick off. But those ideals, and then moving forward to Bernie Sanders and AOC and their crew, the reason those ideals have any presence in the American system is because of Alinskyite methodologies combined with Mark Elias and others in Democrats that have radically rigged our election system in a manner that is not always illegal. You know, it's all legal, but they've won things in the courts that should never have been won, and we should never have gone away from a same-day voting where people are responsible to prepare themselves to do so. Make it a national holiday. That's an easy thing too. And then get people, make people have to stand up for what they're doing on election day, where everything can be counted properly and accounted for properly. Get rid of computer voting systems and fix things. We've got to do that. That is a key fundamental factor to what we're doing, the immigration and the elections. Those are the two things that Democrats have been working on the most to try to rig the system in their favor. Otherwise, they have no hope in this society.
You're right, Jim, and I have never been able to figure out why Election Day is not a national holiday. I've never been able to figure, even if it's just every 4 years, even if you just make it every 4 years, you don't have to make it every year if you don't want, if that's some kind of big problem. Just make it presidential elections only if you have to, but it should be every year. It should be a national. If you want people to exercise their right to vote, you have to make it a holiday. The last holiday we picked up was Juneteenth. Like, they made that a federal holiday. Yeah. We couldn't have made Election Day a federal holiday. But it just seems like most of the stuff, the Democrat people or the liberal base, they have no incentive to see Trump succeed at what he's doing, because they're the people that are living off of the taxpayers. They don't want to see any of this stuff happening. It doesn't, like the guy on welfare, he don't care if prices at the grocery store comes down. He ain't paying for this shit anyway. So what does he care? It's not like, oh yeah, the prices came down at the grocery store. It's all free to him anyway. So they don't care. They have no incentive to worry about that stuff. Oh, mortgage rates came down. He's got free housing. He's on Section 8. What the hell does he care about housing and mortgage rates and all that stuff? So it's the working class people that are trying to help and see this stuff succeed, because it impacts the life. And we're the ones that are supporting all these other people that hate us. And the whole thing is so aggravating, especially when you see the amount of money that's being stolen. It's almost like if you wiped out all fraud whatsoever, we would be paying hardly anything in taxes, because it seems like most of the money, but it's so embedded in the system, it seems like you'd have to dismantle the entire system and start from scratch to get it all out of there.
Well, by the way, that's why, FYI, people listen to your podcast and people come on your podcast, because you do personally represent all this. Like, I've been working in politics for 30 years, and trust me, I haven't been bought into it, and I know that I've been really, I hate DC, and I don't know why I have to spend time in DC, but I do, because that's where it's happening. You've lived it regularly. I mean, it comes out in you because you are in the middle of it and have been in the middle of it. This is where most Americans are. They don't care about what happens in Washington, D.C. I get so frustrated when I see media outlets, quoting Politico or The Hill. Those are two gossip rags that talk about what's going on in D.C. Like, because I've worked in and around D.C. for a long time, Politico has my birthday on there every year, right? And a few other and all the well-known political people. They don't have your birthday on there. They don't give a flip about your birthday, Alec. They care about mine just because I've done stuff. And then that's the thing. That's the absurdity of it, is these political outlets take this absurd way of thinking. Every time I read the Politico thing on a daily basis, I see the most absurd takes that have nothing to do with what Americans think or feel or perceive and know. And the American people are wise enough to understand this idiocy in Washington, D.C. The problem is the people who get elected to D.C., who they trust, Republicans in particular, and this is a Republican country when it comes to general ways of thinking and ideals. Your average American that trusts those people to come up there, they just buy into the system and keep listening to the stupid crap in this area of the country. And it's useless. These people know nothing. They know nothing about reality. And in fact, they're trying to twist reality every single day. So we've got to encourage people to not put up with that crap. We would do well to just kick them all out and start over again. By the way, I think the number that I heard recently is we're going to have about 47 brand new members of Congress. Well, I know that we're going to track it because of retirements and that sort of thing, or people running for governor or whatever they're doing. And I'm sitting back saying, well, that's a real opportunity. If we can just get into these primaries and find real American patriots that actually believe in this country to change things up. So there are always opportunities if we're willing to work for them.
Unfortunately, I think the biggest problem with that, Jim, is that what you have to do to get there, like what it takes for a regular average working guy that does care about these issues to get into Washington, D.C., that road is so difficult. The arrows that come at you, the attacks against your family, you're basically putting your life at risk if you're for a regular, ordinary guy. You have to be willing to fight through all of that in order to get there. I think that deters so many people, but we do need better people in there. And I think it's those people that get, handpicked that get through that process.
Well, there is some of that, but let me, and again, I talked about the consultant class problem that Republicans are really, really good at. They want to make sure their consultants make a lot of money, win or lose. And the consultants want that too, by the way. But let me just say this, Alec, to address the people who totally, they understand what you just said. They understand how frustrating it is. But this is where Donald Trump becomes really significant to remember. Like, this guy's literally given up billions of dollars, right? By the way, go to David Sachs. David Sachs, I was just listening to the All In podcast recently. The guy, he never talks about this, but the other guys there on the podcast say they know that he gave up at least $1 billion by divesting himself of what he had just to go in and try to set things right for a future economy in the tech sector that would be American-based and American thinking. So be inspired by that, people, when you think you're going to get attacked. And this is an area that I do know because I've lived and breathed it. I'm just going to tell you to every person who thinks about it, yes, the road is hard. It is frustrating. But take courage from these good examples because we do need you. And no, it's not just those that get anointed. The anointing happens because you don't come in and say, we're not going to have it. Now, what I do want people to understand, you also need to be involved day by day. Everyone should read Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. Americans were highly engaged in their politics. They were highly engaged in what was happening in the 1820s. I mean, that it was part of our passion. I think good thinking people like you, Alec, they need to decide to get involved again. And that means run for city council, run for school board, go through that gambit and get yourself prepared to run for state legislature or Congress. You do need some experience in this. The question is, will you allow that experience not to harm you? And that takes courage and purpose. And it can be done. I've seen it happen with many people. I've known a lot of folks like this. We just need a lot more of them.
I agree. I know there's one quote, like the penalty you pay for not getting involved in politics is that you're going to be ruled by a bunch of retards or something like that. I don't know what the exact quote is, but that's basically what happens. So
it's an Aristotle quote. I can't remember it, but yeah, absolutely true.
It's true. So I know you got the Conservative Caucus going on. You guys focus on this. Drop the link. I'll put it down below, but tell the people where to go to listen for you because I got to get you out of here.
Yeah, sure. TheConservativeCaucus.com. You'll find out what I'm doing, what we're doing, get some ideas, and I think you'll be benefited by it. So TheConservativeCaucus.com.
Jim, I had two more topics I wanted to get into. We could go on all day.
We do this every time.
I know. See, I can't believe how fast the time goes, but I'll have you back on real soon. Thanks for joining me today on the Alec Blaze Show.
Alec, you're awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, grateful to have my friend Jim Pfaff back on the podcast here. I could talk to him all day. He's knowledgeable about so much of this stuff, and he is right, though. We do need these good people to be in there to run because we keep getting the same type of candidate that we get into the Republican Party. Then we wonder why it's like, oh, man, we keep getting the same old thing. It's because we keep getting the same old candidates. But it is tough. I know just for myself, people have asked me, like, are you going to run for office? Would you it's not even on the table. It's not even something I would consider just because I don't want to put my family through that. Well, it's bad enough what I get just on this end of the microphone. It's like I can't even begin to imagine what I got to go through for all of that stuff. So it does deter people from wanting to get in that arena. And I do appreciate and have respect for the hardworking American people that do get up and move forward to go do that. I think we have some good ones in there. Eli Crane is one. A guy, had a successful business, started the bottle breacher, former Navy SEAL. And he went into, and I think he's one of the better ones that we have in there. So we do need guys like that. I think also too, it does help to have guys that served our nation, that were combat veterans. I think that does help as well to get in there. I think that's almost a prerequisite to get in. For a lot of these guys, I think it helps. But listen, the Democrats are a mess. What they stand for is a mess. What's happening in Minnesota? Could you imagine going out to one of these Minnesota riots, like one of these Minnesota protests? It's like you have a whole bunch of people that just hate America. Like you have these illegal Somalians that are there robbing the country blind, crushing the taxpayer. And then you have this white liberal lunatic next to him like, Oh, you hate America? Guess what? I hate America. Oh, my God. We could be best friends. These are all people that just hate the country. And they're sucking taxpayers' money dry. And it's like, we're just sick and tired of seeing it. And then they, just like Jim was saying there, they walk into the place of worship, and nothing happens to these people. They did it in 2020. They did the same exact thing. They barged into a church, and nothing happened. Charlie Kirk even posted about that when it happened. Charlie Kirk put, this was his post. Christians have not been allowed to attend church for months. This was during COVID, obviously. But when they finally are, BLM rioters are allowed to assault them. Christianity is now under physical assault by radical left-wing terrorism. Where is the media coverage of this? Well, the media hardly covered it. No one was charged. Nothing ever came of it. And that's why you have little faith that you're going to see some kind of people have to pay a price for what they're doing right now. They're getting away with it. And it's just so stupid to watch what these people are allowed to do. But again, Trump is 1 year in. I think we got the country going in the right direction. I don't know how you don't. What is the big knock against President Donald Trump in his first term? I would say the biggest knock that he has is the Epstein files, the way that the entire thing was handled. That has to be the number one knock on his first-year term. I think if it had been handled differently from the jump, it wouldn't have had as major of an impact. I think it was handled poorly. We went through the whole thing with Pam Bondi, with the files are on my desk. We got a truckload of files. We had the MAGA influencers holding up the binders, Epstein files phase 1. And then all of a sudden there was no files, and it became a disaster. I mean, it was just a bad look, and I think that's the only, I would say, negative that he's had as far as it comes to his first year. Other than that, and again, I'm terrible with the foreign stuff, but it's like we went over and just bombed Iran's nuclear sites. We took out their nuclear capabilities, apparently, and it was like a 20-hour turnaround. We went there, bombed it, came back. That was it for that. We went down there and snatched the president of Venezuela, Maduro, in 90 minutes or whatever the hell we were on the ground there. We just went in there and snatched him up. Those are the two, I guess, military actions that took place during Trump's first year in office. He didn't get us into any new wars. They said, Trump's got us into a war. What war? We went over there and bombed the shit out of some nuclear site, which took us less than a day. And then we went over and we grabbed the Venezuelan leader, and our oil production, our prices are going to come down. Isn't that the point anyway? What are we doing? We want to pay more? We want China and Russia to get all the oil that we put billions of dollars into investing down there and got robbed? Trump says no. And people are like, it's all about this, it's all about that. Well, what would you rather, have us get on the other end of it and get would you rather pay more at the pump? Would you rather get screwed when you could do something about it? This guy's bringing in all kinds of fentanyl and stuff into the country, which is another thing. The fentanyl, there's another big accomplishment here for Trump during his first term, is the fentanyl overdoses have plummeted. The numbers have gone down drastically, which is great to see, because that has come in and crushed so many hardworking families. And if that number can continue to drop, boy, that is a miracle that could happen, because so many lives have been destroyed by all of that. And it's because Trump has, number one, the border's closed. Number two, he's bombing these narco boats out of the water. And it's a good thing. When you have less people dying of drug overdoses, it's always a good thing. And, normally you see it in these Democrat cities. A lot of these places are like zombie apocalypses, where you got people just all bent out on fentanyl and oxys and everything else. And it's a shame to see it. But it's something that we got to get a hold of. And I think Trump is obviously on the road to recovery with that as well. So that's another positive. But I'll tell you what, though, he seems more relaxed this time around, his first year. He's not rattled. He seems like he's more confident than ever, and he is putting America first. And I think it's only going to get better in this year, and this is the most important year right now of his second term. This year, most important year. Got to get everything else accomplished in 2026 because I know Jim is optimistic. I don't know how the Republicans pull this off. I don't know how we pull off the midterms. So it'll just be an impeachment after impeachment right after that happens. So this is it. This is the time to get it all in. And we'll see what happens with the CR that they're going to be working on. Jim was talking about the Republican Study Committee. I was just down there with those guys last month. Hopefully, they talk about codifying Trump's executive orders. It should have been done already. And here's the other thing, and I want to get these guys out of here because I know I'm going to start rambling, but I was there at the White House when he signed the executive order to end the Department of Education. I was there when he signed it to keep men out of women's sports. Those two executive orders, it seems like what has happened here? We're still going and fighting all of this stuff. The Supreme Court has to rule on something else. It's like the fight that the Democrats have put up to keep men in women's sports is just mind-boggling to me. I don't understand why they are fighting so hard on an issue that nobody wants. But that was an executive order, and it's like, it's great because I have a daughter. I don't want her to go to high school and have to worry about men being in her locker room or going to the YMCA or anywhere she goes in life and have that be a possibility. I don't want her to go to college and then there's some dude on the swim team or whatever it may be. It should be a non-factor for parents to even have to think about. So I don't know why it's like he signed that executive order, but it's still happening. So it's like that to me, it pisses me off. The other thing is he signed the Department of Education. It's like we need to end the Department of Education. It has been nothing but a failure. That is obvious statistically, and it's obvious if you have common sense and if you have kids that go through this public school pipeline. It is obvious that the public school system is failed, that the Department of Education is a failed operation. So those two things I think we need to see changed before Trump gets out of there. Totally eliminated where the point of men playing in women's sports is a non-option. It has to be drastic actions have to be taken for anybody that allows it to happen. We need to see that completely eradicated from our society. The other thing we need to see is the Department of Education out the window and finished. So I'd like to see that also in this year. But, the prices are coming down. And you got these people, these phonies, like we're saying to Jim, you got Kamala Harris. The sea levels are rising, climate change. She buys an $8 million beachfront home. You got Bernie Sanders, another fraud. How anybody ever follows Bernie Sanders is beyond me. Here's a guy talking about the rich. Oh, the rich are this. I'm for the little guy. He's got 3 homes. Guy's a multimillionaire telling you, you shouldn't be able to own a home. You should have to give it to the poor people. This guy is a fraud. How anybody ever follows that guy is beyond me. He's been nothing but a politician for 50 years. He's a multimillionaire, owns 3 homes. And he's telling you, we should be socialist, eat the rich. And these people, AOC is another one. Comes from a great background, plays the part of the hood rat. Jasmine Crockett's another one. Comes from a wealthy family, went to wealthy schools. She plays the part of the hood rat. It's like, these people are phonies. At least Trump is telling you, yeah, I'm rich. I'm wealthy. I want you to be wealthy, too. I think you should get as much money as you can. And he's not ashamed of it. He knows who he is. He's not being somebody that he's not. And that's what he's genuine, and that's what makes so many people love the guy. All right. Going to be back on Thursday here. I know there's a White House press briefing that I'm up against right now as I'm going. I haven't gone down to the White House yet this year. I know we're 20 days in here, but I have not gone down there yet. Hopefully maybe next week I go down to a briefing. As I said, got off to a little bit of a rough start this year as far as the podcast stuff goes. So I do have some stuff I've been working on in the pipeline. There's been a few opportunities that have come my way, trying to sift through, make the best decision for myself, for you, the viewer, for my family. And we'll see what happens. But there could be some announcements coming up shortly, so stay tuned for that. And I will be back at it here on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Rumble. Great to be back here with you guys doing the show. It's an exciting time in America. It's an exciting time to be an American. We got the 250th anniversary of a country that I love so deeply, and I know you do too. And it's funny because as we celebrate this year, the 250th anniversary of our country. Imagine being a Democrat. It's like you hate everything about the country. You hate everything about the country's history. You don't even care that it's the 250th anniversary. You wish that the country would be over. And these are the people that we're voting against, that we're going up against politically. They absolutely despise every single thing that Americans and American history stands for. They hate it. But for us, people that love the country, it's a great year. It's a time to celebrate. We got Trump's second year. We got the country's 250th year. And I think expectations are high. Optimism is high. And patriotism is high. Let's make America great again. I'll be here for it all. Hope you'll join me on the road to recovery here for the country. And I'll be back on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Rumble.
You're listening to the Alec Show. The future is family.